Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 185 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. Yes, I'm very excited, Tim, for this episode because not only we're talking about that cool movie, The Wind, we wanted to see from 2018, but we're also going to be talking to XANTHE Pajarillo, and she, of course, directed the amazing Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. So we're really excited to talk to her about that and some other projects she's worked on. I think you guys are all going to love that interview.
Yeah, that was actually a really fun interview with XANTHE, and we appreciated her coming on so shortly after the Chainsaw Awards and all the hype around that. So I was super excited to get her on because we had just watched it the other night, and I was kind of still hyped from it, so...
Yeah, and she was so gracious to come right on, which was so grateful. We're so grateful for her. So, and I think you guys are going to really, really love this interview. It's really fun.
All right, well, we have an excellent little first chop this week, Brian, so let's get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, so one of the movies I watched, and this is one I watched with the kids, kind of not knowing exactly what I was getting into. It might have been a little on the rough side for the kids. I don't know. Not in terms of gore per se, but some of the humor, although I hope most of it went over their heads. This was COOTIES from 2014. This is the Elijah Wood vehicle. And this is have you seen this one, Brian?
No, but I thought this was one of those like kind of family horror movies. I guess I'm confusing with something else.
Well, if you watch the trailer, it does look that way because it involves a bunch of 4th and 5th graders. But the some of the humor and stuff is kind of definitely skews adult. So and there's of course some language, but the kids still enjoyed it. It's about Elijah Wood plays a substitute teacher that goes to substitute at the school, and unfortunately there is a contaminated chicken nugget that makes its way into the school system, and it turns the children into flesh-eating zombies. And this was a cool movie in that it broaches the subject of kid zombies, which you don't see a lot, and I love kid zombies. I think that's the coolest thing, and you don't ever get to see that because you don't want to. You don't want to have people killing children in a movie, but because I think this one gets away with it because of the comedic effect. And it's chock full of cameos. It's got Elijah Wood. It's got Rainn Wilson stars. Lee Winnell stars in it.
Really?
Allison Pill is the co-star with Elijah. And all kinds of little...
She's really good.
Yeah, all kinds of nice little cameos. So the cast is just absolutely fantastic. We really, really enjoyed it. I had heard about this one before, but I don't know. I never really paid much attention to it. And again, it's a zombie movie, so I'm like, whatever. But the humor and stuff is really great in this one. So if I will give you one warning, the intro to this movie has a very realistic depiction of how chicken nuggets are made from slaughterhouse to the plate. And if that kind of thing upsets you, this may trigger you big time. So the just fair warning, the intro is pretty rough to watch. So the movie's great, but the intro probably put me off chicken nuggets for a few months. Until I forget about it.
So no more 20-piece nuggets for Tim. Yeah?
No, not after seeing that. So yeah, just fair warning. But yeah, if you like it, it's I can't remember which platform it's on. I think it was on. It was on one of them. I didn't pay for it, so it was on Prime or Hulu or one of those. But yeah, go check that one out because Elijah Wood is great in it, as he is in everything.
I know. What is he not good in? So the next thing we got is the CREEPSHOW finale. Tim, did you get to watch that yet?
Unfortunately, I did not because I was watching some stuff that's going to come up pretty soon. So
okay. You are going to love this one. This is such a you episode, Tim. I don't want to spoil too much then to say about it. I mean, because really, you don't want to spoil it for our listeners too, but I definitely don't want to spoil it for you. Just let's say it mixes one of your it involves some classic horror with it, which I know you will like, and
cool.
It's just done really cool. and you could tell it's like only like Shudder, like the forces that make Creepshow and Shudder could pull this one off. I think the way they did is really cool. Justin Long is the main actor in it, which
I like Justin
of course
Long. Okay.
which he's great. So, and there's definitely, of course, like typical Easter eggs, and there's actually Easter eggs to like some weird Easter eggs, not even horror Easter eggs that are kind of hidden in there that I caught on. It's just really, really fun episode, and it's only a one story episode. The finale is just one. I think they're probably going to have two, but I'm wondering if it's that whole thing where they had to remove the Marilyn Manson one, kind of threw off the. So this one's only a finale, but it's like a good 40 plus minutes. So it's definitely worth where it fills up the whole time. So that's really good. But it's definitely, and I'm in terms of being a Creepshow thing, I think it's kind of more Black Mirror / Twilight Zone-esque, but still it's so good, such a great episode that there's definitely there's some elements of a classic Creepshow type of story in there, but it's hard. It walks that line, but either way, it was one of my favorite episodes out of the 2 seasons, so it's actually really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. So then here's a funny this is like a little off topic here, but so Julia's watching this Dawn Wall documentary. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's basically about these two rock climbers that kind of make they kind of go up that El Capitan, but they try their whole point is, I guess, one's the guy's a experienced guy and one guy's a boulderer, and what happens is, I guess, they're trying to make the first new path that's ever been on here it's so. But the whole point, what I wanted to say is, all these documentaries, I'm always wondering the same thing, like, how do they poop? How are you on a rock? Because I saw Free Solo, and I don't think they dressed it, right?
Right.
The same thing. And I'm sitting there. It was the funniest thing. So I kept asking Julie while she was watching. I'm like, I don't think I could do that. I was like, how do they poop? Because at one point, I think they were up there a total of 19 plus days on this wall, and they're sleeping up there, and they're cooking on the wall, that special, like sleeping bag thing, which freaks me out because I don't think I could ever fall. I fall out of bed too many times, when I'm trying to get up and I'm tired. I'm like, I could just imagine forgetting that I'm up 1,000 feet up and then falling to my doom. But also, right after I kept asking that, finally the guy said, literally, they show him how he poops.
Oh,
so
God.
I'm like, I wanted to praise this documentary for finally answering one of my questions. I know that sounds so random, but I have to know these things. I don't know.
Are you
going
to leave it a mystery for me to find out, or is this something is this a spoiler
It's like,
alert?
I guess it's no, it's just kind of like some kind of apparatus he goes into, and then they lower it down. But I guess that's what they do there. They I guess anytime they go to the bathroom, they put it in, then they kind of lower it down to the crew down below. I'm like, wow, how do you get that job? How is that job ever answered in a want ad? Hi, like waste collector for a rock climber. It's like.
Oh.
But I thought it was really interesting. But the documentary is actually pretty cool to watch, because one of the guys, actually at one point, it's kind of I guess this could be horror related, but at one point he's I guess he's trying to reach for something, and basically the tip of his finger gets scraped off because he's trying to reach for this rock. And so he has to basically rest the whole day to try and get it to heal, because he just can't grab anymore. It's really, but it seemed like I want to rewatch it now that I'm focusing on not just how they go to the bathroom up there, but more about the actual storyline. But yeah, I don't know what Julie watched it on. It might have been Netflix or something. But check, it's called the Dawn Wall, because I guess that's the spot of the mountain. They call it Dawn Wall, but yeah. So I figured I had to touch that. And then one more thing I watched is at one point we were gonna Tim was gonna feature this, I guess, as one of his segments, but I ended up just watching it anyway, and that was Humanoids from the Deep from 1980, and it was pretty fun. I was I kind of remember as I watched it, I think I had seen it years ago. I mean, because it's from 80, so. Mm-hmm. It's probably something I might have seen. I just don't remember all the details to it, but there was a couple of sequences I kind of remember. And it's I swear to God, I think Vic Morrow's character is almost just a fisherman version of his Twilight Zone, the movie character. He's this really horrible guy that is pretty is essentially pretty racist in it, and not a good guy in it, but. But yeah, and it was funny. The main lead, I'm like looking at this guy, and I'm like, where is he from? What is he from? And then it dawned on me, it's the guy that played the father on Out of This World. Remember with Evie, the girl with the powers, the space powers?
Oh my gosh,
it's the father. It's like, I'm like, that's who he is. He's got such a recognizable face, and like that was what he was from. But because I remember I used to watch that show all the time. It's such a silly show, but it was a fun one. So he was in it, but it was so like cheesy, that movie, but it was like there's something about it is definitely an enjoyable watch, and it's short, and if you want to look for some 80s cheesy horror movie that kind of plays off of like if like there were 100 creatures from the Black Lagoon, I guess.
Nice.
But it's definitely an enjoyable watch.
All right, guys. Well, let's turn our attention to our fantastic interview with XANTHE PAJARILLO, and I rolled the L's that time, Brian.
Yeah, you did it better. So, you did it much better than me. I had an issue.
I always struggle with that. She was so gracious to come on and talk about the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards and some other things she's doing. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Check it out.
The awards season for most usually revolve around the Golden Globes and the Oscars. While those accolades are great, we horror fans are always most excited by the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. This year's was a live online event that was everything we could have asked for and more. Here to discuss that amazing show is the extremely talented director of it, XANTHE PAJARILLO. Welcome to the show. Did I get the name right first? I want to make sure I got it right.
Yes, that was beautiful.
Okay,
beautiful
good. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on the show, XANTHE. We absolutely love the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. In fact, our listeners probably tire of us talking about them in the weeks leading up to them.
Yeah.
So we were super excited to see the show, and you just did an outstanding job directing. But before we get into that, I would like to give you the opportunity to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself if they're not familiar with your work.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much, guys, for having me. I'm super excited. But as far as like my little bio, so my name is XANTHE PAJARILLO. I'm a Filipino-American writer-director raised in Germany and Virginia. I was in the Air Force for 5 years before I went to Cal Arts and studied photography. And now I'm at USC for film school because I realized I liked moving images more than still images. And as far as like the type of horror films I like making is like specifically women about like being trapped, whether that's mentally or physically. So, and then obviously, as you mentioned, the most recent project was the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, which aired on Shudder.
That's awesome. So when you knew you wanted to get into filmmaking, what was like the kind of like the aha moment that said, you know what, this is what I want to do. I need to do this.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I was at Cal Arts for photography, my professors kept saying I keep studying the wrong courses because I was like begging the film professors to let me into the editing class and the screenwriting class. So that's when I kind of noticed the pattern of me like trying to be with the film kids all the time.
That's cool. Yeah, I actually went, it's funny. I did go to school for filmmaking, as you could see. It got me here, but I didn't. I never really pursued it the way I probably should have. But I know how it is. Like when you're going to the to a university and you get so caught up in something, it gets like, especially with filmmaking, it's so exciting because you're never short of finding people to help you with stuff, which is pretty cool. I always think.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like it's always. I'm really so glad that Cal Arts was kind of very open about you like experimenting, because that's kind of their whole deal is like just experiment. And then I was like, well, I actually didn't even study my major much, so I really went towards film. But USC is like very, very different from Cal Arts, which I appreciate because they're more like they really like reel you into the film experience and like the production side.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I took one film class in college, and it was probably one of my favorite classes I took in my entire college career. It opened up such a world of, stuff that I never would have seen otherwise. I thought it was really cool. So we would not be a horror podcast if we did not ask you what some of your favorite horror films were. I'm not going to ask you to name your favorite because that's not fair, but I will ask you to name some of your favorites.
Well, Actually, I do have a favorite. So
Oh, well, there you go. Well, then you can
Okay,
answer.
we just didn't want to put the pressure on you
Okay.
to name it. So it's like,
well, I mean, obviously, like, I have so many, but I really have to like owe it to the original Psycho, which is like right on my
oh
wall.
yeah.
Only because that was the movie, not even just horror, but like the movie that really blew me away when I was younger. And I was like, what? They killed the main character? I don't get, like, it's just like one surprise after the other, And I also love Anthony Perkins. Like, he's amazing, like underappreciated through his career. But other horror films that I love are, I love Asian horror. Like, I feel like Asian horror scares me the most. Like Cairo, did you see that one? Or Pulse is the English title.
Actually, I don't think I saw that one yet.
Oh,
I may have seen it many years ago. I don't know that I remember a lot about it.
yeah, that one stayed with me the first time I saw it, like so terrifying. And then I do love The Black Coat's Daughter is like another huge favorite of mine. But yeah, like, I mean, most recently I loved Come True.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that yet. Well, we're terrible, Tim. Look at this. We're like getting totally like.
I know she's schooling us on horror movies.
I know. Now we have like a watch list right after.
But yeah, that's the ballpark. But I kind of like grew up on like my mom showing me like Carrie and like 90s slashers like Scream. So that's like those are the traumatizing memories I had as a kid.
That's awesome. That was actually similar to me because my mom got me cable when I was younger. Well, of course, I hate to say a lot older, but definitely older than you. So it's like for me, it was like the late 70s, early 80s slashers and horror movies that I was exposed to that got me really into it. But yeah, we should have known actually Psycho because of that great Norman Bates video that you did. That was hilarious. Did you get to see that, Tim? It was great.
Yes, I loved it.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
I truly love that song. It was really good, and I'm a big Psycho fan as well, so that was right up my alley.
Oh, thank you so much for watching it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, we like to prepare, so we watched the whole like repertoire, and what if you have a great singing voice too, and it's like,
thank you.
So it's like I like, like I knew you were like, you had a great directing skills, but I didn't expect like such musical skills. That was really impressive.
Yeah, I wanted to be a rock star when I was in high school. So it's like that's not my passion anymore, but I still love songwriting.
Oh my God, that's great. And actually, so speaking of your videos that we do, I will go a little sidetracked here before we get into the chainsaws. But I was gonna wear this, but it doesn't fit anymore.
Oh.
But I thought you would appreciate this based off of some of your videos here.
Oh. I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then actually, even on the back, it says for a limited time only. So yeah, because I love that McRib stuff because I am a huge McRib fan myself. So
yeah, Brian just held up a McRib shirt for.
Oh yeah, I should tell everybody. Yeah, it was a McRib shirt that I had. And your stuff was hilarious in the songs. Like, how did you like? You got me. I have to ask you about that. I'm like, I hope she doesn't mind, but I gotta ask about the McRib stuff because I love it.
It's all good.
So like, what made you get into like that? What made you decide you wanted to do those like projects with that?
Okay, so yeah, it's a little. I'm always like feel a little weird talking about it because I actually genuinely love the McRib, and like it's a whole deal with like the family and everything. So it's actually like not a joke. Like, long story short.
Oh no, I didn't think that. You could tell you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm the same way. It's like I wait every like around the holidays when they release it. It's like that's the first week it's out. I'm like at the McDonald's, and I don't really eat fast food that much, but that's what I will always make sure I go to.
Okay, so I'm in good company then.
Oh
so.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So as far as like the city council thing, I was just that was a day where I was just like really irritated because my dad had just come back from like deployment because he's always working like overseas as a contractor. And we were all like leading up to this like tradition that we have with the Thanksgiving, like, okay, so it's Thanksgiving and now we're all going to finally again be together. And then all of a sudden McDonald's says they're not going to bring it back, like 2015. And I was like, okay, well, I was just like like blindsided and like, okay, what can I do for people to like listen that, you know, like there's people out there who are expecting it to come out. And so it's not that I thought the city council was the right people to talk to, but like, but I feel like going there, maybe somebody would have a connection, or at least it would kind of like spread like in like to somebody who does know. So that kind of like started, and that was weird because I didn't expect somebody to upload the video online, and they kind of like blew up and went viral. And so, and I was like, oh, okay, somebody released it on YouTube. And so I just kind of like tried to build the momentum around bringing it back by creating that documentary about like the protest and like creating the McCrib Blues song. And then, yeah, just having that whole little like pocket of McCrib related stuff.
Well, that's awesome. You have our support. I will tell you. I will always vote yes on McRib every year. So,
Can I tell a dirty secret? I've never had a McRib.
Oh,
Damn.
really?
I don't even know you. I've been doing this podcast for you for how long, and I did not know this.
I don't have a dog
I'm
in
sorry,
this fight. I've
Xanthi.
never
I
had
didn't
one.
expect that. I did not know he did not ever have a McRib.
But I fully support. I'll support it. I don't care if I've never had one. I'll sign the petition or whatever I need to do.
That's it. I'm buying you one next fall, Tim.
All right.
Buying Tim a McRib.
Well, I introduced Brian to boiled peanuts, so
That's true. He did.
you can return the favor.
Yes, and I will introduce you to the McRib.
So, Xanthi, speaking of your music videos, I know we touched on it a little bit, but is that something? Are you still creating music? Is that something you're still interested in doing? Or are you kind of veered more into the film side now?
I mean, the film is like my number one passion, but when I do have free time, I am like still writing music, mostly like as a emotional outlet and just out of pure enjoyment. I'm trying to, like my friends and I are trying to like start a band together, but I've been too busy with film that I'm like, oh, sorry, wait. But yeah, like the latest song that I wrote was like I had a Zoom crush, and it was just like about how I feel like through the Zoom like era, I don't know if these feelings are genuine. Because do you ever feel like you like talking to people and you meet them and you're like, is this like this is an idea of a person? But then I'm like, oh, what if I meet them in real life and they're like awful? Like, I don't know. It's like me creating a story in my head.
Well, no, that's like that with any, like, you know, when you go to like, you know, being like, let's say for us, like being horror fans, like when we went to the horror conventions, it's like we wanted to meet these people that some of them we had talked to before, or some of them we didn't, but we're like, you know, you're always nervous that you're going to go up and they're going to be different than how you expect. But yeah, no, I totally get that. Of course, that's more of a personal aspect of it than that one. But yeah, and I have to say that Ryan Gosling song was like stuck in my head. Like it was so catchy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I love Ryan Gosling, and but the height of my Ryan Gosling was back when Drive came out. So I'm like okay now, like I'm like about it. So, but I just like that was me when I wrote that song. Like wow, like 2000, yeah, like around Drive I wrote that song, but I just made that music video just more recently. And that was me like making fun of myself being obsessed with my favorite celebrities and specifically with him. And I was like, okay, I feel like a crazy person, so maybe I should just like make fun of it somehow.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And it's like because it was like a great short film on its own, and then it has this like catchy song in there that like, you know, I found myself like kind of humming in my head after I watched it. That's hard to explain to like my wife when I'm sitting there, like all of a sudden I'm like singing about Ryan Gosling. You know, she kind of like probably like, I didn't even think you liked his movies that much, but yeah, you know. So.
I am excited that he's finally gonna be in a horror movie though, like with the Wolfman.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I think he'll nail that too. He'll be good with that.
For sure.
So, okay, so we need to get into these Chainsaw Awards because our listeners are probably like, come on, we want to know. So we want to know about like everything you can tell us about it because you did such an amazing job. It was such a fun experience to watch, and I even tweeted out, and I got so many responses. I was excited. I basically said, "This is the way the award shows should be from now on." this is exactly the way it should be. This kind of like pace, this kind of fun, this kind of just quality and everything. So tell us all about what you can about like how were you approached for it and what the planning was like and stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. That's really nice. I have to like really owe it to the team, really the Chainsaw Awards team, like the crew, because oh my goodness, like we had a really short turnaround time, and also we shot it virtually, so it was like a bunch of challenges that they totally killed it. As far as like the way that we like created it, there was like different pockets of planning going on. So like the producers would be the ones reaching out to the presenters and the winners. So all of that was done in their own time with the self-taping. And I did write like the script like for every category, but for the most part, like they made it their own, or they completely just did their own thing, which made it like amazing. Because like I was blown away by a lot of the submissions, as you saw. Like the presenters like really took it there. And so as far as like what I mostly did was the David Dustmalchin like host segments, like we did all that together. And the only in-person part was the Smiling Beth music video. So as far as like prep, yeah, everything was through Zoom. Like we did rehearsals through Zoom, all the planning, phone calls. And so thankfully I had done this last year. So I kind of already knew how to do virtual production, and kind of like helped with like getting the team who also already experienced it. But yeah, like it was a bunch of madness. And so like, oh, especially for post-production, like that is like specifically challenging, because you know you're trying to do sound and you're not even in the same room, and you have to wait for the exports and like with editing. So yeah.
But it came out so great. I mean, was there any time you were like a little nervous, like, oh my God, there's going to be so many people watching this. I need to make sure I get like hit this part right, or I want to make sure this part like really like it comes out like I wanted and everything, or.
Yeah, I was like hoping that, you know, because the goal is to make sure that it's super entertaining, and we wanted people to feel appreciated and like have this little like hour away from the world and just like loving this genre that we all like are so passionate about. So I was just like always like, I hope people like it, you know, like everyone works so hard, and like David was amazing, and Smiling Beth, and like everyone who did the self-tape. So I guess that was the biggest like thing I was kind of like not worried about, but like really hoping. Yeah,
well, you definitely that's something that like, I mean, I think it was such a, you know what it was that like, you know, we all had such a great fun year watching a horror in light of what was going on with the pandemic, and horror was such an escape for all of us. To have such a like a you know, a culmination of that year with such a great event. I mean, that was like just it was just, I loved every second. I wish it could have gone on like 3 hours. I wish you could have taken the time that the Oscars take, but like flipped it for take the Oscars like an hour and make that 3 hours. But
thank you.
So Xanthi, do you have any new projects coming up that you can tell our listeners about?
Yeah, well, I have a short film called Thrall that's doing its festival run right now, so it can't be out. But that one is a like found footage film about a girl who comes home to her mom, and her mom claims that something is in the house, and it's told through like video messages and security cams. That one was shot virtually, so that was a little crazy with the two actors being in two separate homes, making them look together. And I'm trying to finish writing a Filipino folklore feature, which kind of is like trying to connect with my family's heritage in a way. And as far as like, well, I guess those are the main things I can kind of talk about. Like, yeah. Okay,
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, we saw you had something too cool coming out called Airmen. That looked really cool. I saw like a little a promo for that. That looked really good.
Yeah, so actually later this year, I'm trying to shoot that because I crowdfunded that right before I went to USC. And that was based on created out of a frustration of Air Force or like military stereotypes. Because like being from the military and coming out, you realize, oh, a lot of these military movies are like, it's just about PTSD and war, and that's about it. And it's like, well, we have our normal daily lives, and I feel like, civilians and veterans are so alike. And so it really hurts me that there's such a separation sometimes between them. And so that's what basically Airman is about, a group of Air Force troops navigating life at their base. It's supposed to be like just like fun, like think like The Office, but set in the Air Force. So that's actually probably the only non-horror project I'm still passionate about, just because it's like so close to me. So yeah.
Yeah, it looked really interesting. I was actually, I'm definitely looking forward to that too. I mean, now I'm looking forward to all the stuff, of course, but so we'll give you a fun question here, unless you thought all the others were fun too, and then that's good. But, this one's so. If money and resources were unlimited, what would your dream project be?
Oh, okay. I actually have one that I do have in mind, just because it's very expensive, and it's one of my So I'm trying not to give away too much, but just think if there's a particular story I really want to tell. That first of all, I am obsessed with Sweden, anything Swedish.
Man, me too. I like it, anything, any of the Nordic countries. I'm like all about. Yeah.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, I love Sweden, and I hope to move there one day. And just so there's this history surrounding Sweden, and basically I'm trying to not say too much because I'm not giving it away. But basically a horror story surrounding Swedish history that involves how do I describe it? A very traumatic historical event. I'm sorry that's so vague.
No. I didn't mean to put you on we definitely didn't mean to put you on the spot and give out the secret. But I can tell you already, you've got Tim sold for sure with
all you had to say was Sweden.
And then he's in. So yeah.
Cool.
So Xanthi, where can our listeners find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and it's just to make it easy. It's just my first and last name. So
cool. Okay.
Yeah, right, and then we'll make sure we put the links to your pages and stuff, your YouTube page and stuff for sure, so everyone can check out all the cool stuff we got to see. So,
thank you.
But so thank you so much for coming on. I know it was short notice. This was truly special for us to be able to get to talk to you, especially because we love the Chainsaw Awards so much, and it was such a great event. And so we are so grateful to you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and for all the kind words. Appreciate it.
All right, Brian, another great interview down in our arsenal.
Yeah, Xanthi's so cool. She was a fun person to talk to. You could tell she has such a passion for her projects and stuff, and it really comes out in when she talks about it.
Yeah, and a perfect example of an artist who really puts her emotions into her work, which is always great to see. I love seeing creative people doing creative things, in multiple platforms.
Yeah.
In her case, it's always fascinating to me because I feel like I'm creative, but I don't typically, other than maybe this podcast, I don't typally have an outlet or talent to do anything outside of this.
Yeah, and she's and she's got not only just the obviously the writing and directing talent, but she's got the musical talent too, which you'll see in some of her projects. She mixes all of her talents into each project, which I think is what's really amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool. All right, well, let's turn our attention to our main feature. We are doing The Wind from 2018, and one of the reasons we picked this is we wanted to kind of do, with Xanthi coming on, we wanted to do kind of a women in horror type theme for this episode.
We're a couple of months late, but on it.
Yeah.
But
no, but we always support women and minorities in horror, and
yes.
I hate that we have to single that out because it should just be, like we say on the show before, it shouldn't be women directors, because you never say male directors. It sounds stupid.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have to single this out is kind of unfortunate, and that we can't just have, we don't have to have special months for it or anything. But as long as that disparity exists in the industry, we're going to try to highlight it. So we wanted to do a film directed by a female and written by a female in this case. Fantastic movie, The Wind from 2018. It was directed by Emma Tammy, starring Caitlin Gerard as Lizzie Macklin, Julie Goldani Tellis as Emma Harper, Ashley Zuckerman as Isaac Macklin, Dylan McTee as Gideon Harper, Miles Anderson as the Reverend, and Martin C. Patterson as Eli. A plainswoman faces the harshness and isolation of the untamed land in the western frontier of the late 1800s.
By the way, just so you know, Dylan McTee, I saw an interview with him, and he goes, "I pity the fool who don't watch The Wind." No, I'm sorry, he didn't.
Oh, that's the wrong T.
Yeah, the wrong T.
No, this one, I love Westerns, Brian. I am a huge fan of Westerns. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the show. I probably have at some point, but Westerns is one of my favorite genres, and they're rare these days that you get one. So anytime I see a new Western coming out on the big screen, I'm always super excited. Particularly excited when at the recent trend of like mixing Westerns and horror. Not invented recently, obviously, because there's been movies like that over the decades, but it seems like it's, and maybe that's because I'm in the board gaming hobby, but there's a lot of Western horror mashups in the board gaming industry kind of coming out as well.
It was also like in games. Remember the Big Bang Theory where they had the Mystic Warriors of Ka'ah, where they had the Western pack with like Billy the Kid, and like they had all the Western characters like mixed up into the medieval character.
Yeah. I mean, that's fun. I love those mashups. So whenever I get a Western horror movie, I am all about it. And I've been wanting to see this one for a while, ever since I saw the trailer, which was really, really effective. And I was not disappointed. So it's an interesting story. It takes place, it's one of those movies that takes place with a small cast and a small location, but it doesn't ever feel, maybe it's because of the expanse of the prairie, it never feels low budget. It never feels, like they were trying to skimp on anything. The production values are super high, and it's kind of hard to talk about because the story is told in out of chronological sequence.
Yeah, and actually what they do, which is I think, and it's like one of these ones you kind of have to really focus on, because there's no like defining cuts. Like, how like sometimes you can tell like when they're trying to go back, to tell things through flashbacks, there's really the editing is just so smooth, so it's like really you have to kind of really focus to make sure because there's a couple of times I was watching this, I'm like, wait, oh, okay, I see. They went back to real time. So it's actually like it's an interesting editing technique, I think. Because you don't need something necessarily like a
yeah,
but like usually there's some sort of like either kind of some kind of cue to tell you guys. And this one does it so smooth back and forth. It could actually a couple times like I missed that it was going back and forth, and I'm like, wait a minute, and then then it dawned on me. Then I got used to it, and then realized. But I thought that was an interesting technique to the way they did that.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of talent to do that too, where you're not losing your audience constantly in the back and forth. And the director does a fantastic job kind of keeping you in the moment, because even when you do occasionally maybe lose your place for a brief moment, you always snap your way back to it. Like
I never got lost for more than a second.
Right,
I just had to register that what time period they were going back to. That's all.
The other thing I found super interesting is that there are things revealed, and I'm not going to talk spoilers in this one because it's so recent.
Yeah,
I want you guys to watch it.
This is still new enough, I think.
Yeah,
this is still new enough. I don't want to spoil it.
But the intro reveals some things about what's going to happen later on, very upfront in the movie. So you spend much of the movie knowing these things are going to happen. You just don't quite know how.
Or why, really.
Yeah, how or why. And I always thought that's just a fascinating thing to do in a horror movie, because you're showing your hand early, and typically in horror movies, or most typical horror movies, you're kind of doing a slow build up to a big reveal. Where in this case, you're revealing early, and then the slow build up is figuring out why or how that reveal happened. And it takes a very special kind of talent from both a writing perspective and a directing perspective to pull that off so effectively.
Yeah.
I thought they did a fantastic job at this one.
Yeah, and there were some great visuals in this. Like, like Tim, there was a lot of, like there were some shots that were just kind of, pretty like standard for Western, but then there were some cool shots that when they were trying to do which I can't give out. I feel terrible saying this, but Tim, you'll know what I mean. There's a certain thing where you see something finally revealed, And it's just this amazing it's like cinematography that was used for that sequence, I think. Where and I could talk to you after we record to let you know the exact part. Everyone that's listening, they're probably like, "Well, gee, thanks," but like I'm doing it for your own good, because I think this is one of these ones you don't really want to know much going in, because I didn't know much other than that I remembered seeing the trailer. Tim and I saw the trailer and knew we wanted to watch it, or we read the description, one or the other, but we knew we wanted to watch it. But I hardly remembered what it was about it, other than that it was like a slow burn kind of thing, and someone compared it to The Witch I saw, so I'm like, okay, I'm in if that's what they're going to compare it to. But I mean, I think it was much different, so don't go in expecting it to be like The Witch, because it's not, but I see why the comparison exists to it in terms of the pacing.
Yeah, but I thought The Witch was much slower than this. Honestly.
Oh yeah, no, it was much slower, and I think mostly because of the reason you just said earlier, the reveal was done. Like, one of the main plot points right up front, right when this thing starts, but you don't know why or how it gets there. And you're right, it is an interesting technique, and it does kind of make a slow burn movie feel just a little bit faster, I think, because you kind of. You're not now concentrating on what could happen next. You know what's eventually going to happen.
Right, that kind of keeps you on the hook, even though it might be slower paced than your typical horror movie. You already have that hook in you, so you're kind of dragged along for the ride. Now, I will give you just a very high-level overview. This is no spoilers, but it's about a woman and a man who are basically homesteaders out on the prairie. They've built this house. There's nobody around, and they do end up getting some new neighbors that they meet, another couple. And the thing about this section of land they're on is that there have been rumors that there's something wrong about this place, and the woman feels that Lizzie, she feels that there's something off about this place, and there's signs that something is off. And so there's this dark, brooding presence over the entire affair. And as they meet these neighbors, now all of a sudden they have somebody else that they can see these effects happening to. Now, I will say, Brian, this reminded me actually of a comic book, and not in terms of tone per se, but because of kind of the premise. Because there's a comic series I really enjoyed called Manifest Destiny.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about now this one is obviously a little more extreme than this was, but it was about kind of the Lewis and Clark days of discovering the Old West. But in this version of American history, the West was populated with monsters. So you have this group of people going out to discover the Old West, but they're encountering all kinds of beasts and monsters and stuff, and having to battle them and stuff. It was a really, really cool series. So if you ever get a chance to check that one out, Manifest Destiny, I want to say it's by Image Comics. So check that one out, because it's kind of the same kind of cool premise that you're taking something to them was in real life was actually scary. They didn't know what they were going to face out there. Native Americans that were hostile, and animals. I mean, you see even some of that in the movie, wolves and things that they would encounter. The isolation. You don't have anybody to run to when something goes wrong. I mean, there
wasn't even a town in this one. Usually in a Western there's the town, but they were not even like, there were places they could go, because I guess at one point, not to give away a part of the plot, but there's one point where they have to kind of go off to do something. So I guess there's some town that they can get to, but I don't know if it's not like it's in like where, they're living on just the outskirts of town. I think it's like a 2 or 3 day trip, right? To get to.
Yeah. They're not in Walnut Grove. They're.
Or Hill Valley, 1870.
So yeah, and going back to what I was saying before about being scared of this movie early on was one of the first times I've felt kind of got in the mindset of those homesteaders and the fear they would face being out against the elements and wild animals and stuff. I know you see that in movies, but I don't know, I guess because this being a horror film and they were intentionally trying to make it dark, it was the first time I'd really thought about it in that way, going, oh my God, like how terrifying was that these people were going through. I mean, this was a hard life.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like, and it seems like, I mean, for where they are, they don't look like they want for much though. Like they seem to like they always seem to have food, they have clothes, so they're pretty as good as you can get in those days. I think they're pretty much there, but it's like, but it's still, it's like, what happens if like, if like she's got it, like if they get sick, someone gets sick, someone there, like either the husband or the wife better know how to fix something because. It's it's not like you can call. You can be, and that's always the biggest fear to me. Like even like you think today, like like when we get when someone like today freaks out, like when a storm is coming and you're gonna lose power and you won't be able to get to someone. Well, just think of that every day, and that's what they were living through. They're like living through an aftermath of a storm every day, essentially. But the one good thing about this couple is that. They live in such an expanse, they can see someone coming a mile away. So if someone's coming after them, they have plenty of time to hide.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminded me of those survival games that me and Joshua like to play where you're like, it was funny, I was looking at her, they have like a fence around their property made out of like sticks tied together. I'm like, oh, that's like those things we make in some of our survival games. Like it's just, oh man, it's a rough life. And then to have this presence, this evil presence, stalking you at the same time, it just makes it that much worse. So I really, really loved everything in this movie. Was shot so beautifully and with such care. Like I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, everything Emma Tammy did in this film from a directing standpoint was just. I was blown away by it. I really was. No pun intended for the blown away and the wind, but
yeah.
I keep doing it. I'm unintentionally punning all night, but yeah, I was blown away. I thought it was a beautifully shot film. I thought the pacing and stuff was kind of ingenious. The way the chronological things jumped around and but it never lost you. And there's some real scares in here. There's some really good stuff. It's not like. The Witch, where a lot of the scares are just kind of implied or they're kind of subtle. There's actually some genuine scares in here. There are some subtle things, but there's also some genuine stuff in here too, which I thought was fantastic because I was not expecting that. I was really expecting, I didn't know much about the movie. I was really expecting something a lot more kind of left to the imagination, let's say.
Yeah, I think probably the only comparison with The Witch you could really make in the end is that there was a goat in this too.
There was a white Phillip.
Yeah, it was a different goat. That was it. But they're both goats.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to say like remember like Tom Hanks in The Terminal, like he's goat. He's goat. Which I drive Julie crazy anytime there's a goat. I say that line and it literally drives her insane because. And then there was something I guess her mom was talking about when they were doing a family Zoom and they mentioned it, so I kept saying it from afar. I was like, "He's a goat. He's goat." You know the scene I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Which that movie I love, by the way. Side story, but yeah. So it's like, anytime I get to say that line, I do much to the torture of anyone in earshot. But yeah, this one is like I'm surprised it didn't get more like praise and more like. Discussion out there. I mean, unless we just missed it. I mean, unless it breezed right by us. See what I did?
God.
Yeah, but yeah, no. I mean, it really is. I'm surprised though, actually, that a lot more people aren't talking about this. It was that it was so good, and the performances were really good. They were pretty solid. It's like I mean, and it's hard. It's not a big cast. I mean, literally everyone Tim mentioned are the people in it, except the goat. He is goat. But yeah, no. Other than that, it's just a really enjoyable horror movie that has like the perfect amount of pacing to kind of bring you along and keep you invested in it without ever really like doing it so intentionally that it's a distraction. Like because there are some movies that are like trying to slow burn you on purpose.
Yes, exactly.
And this one does it in such a way that you don't realize you're being slow burned, basically. But
you're over a low broil or something.
Yeah, you're simmering throughout the movie.
Yeah.
So.
It's fantastic. Now, I don't think it's streaming for free anywhere. I ended up having
No, it is. It's on Showtime. If you have the Showtime app.
Okay, yeah.
I guess I assume if you have that Hulu or with the Showtime add-on, I guess you can get it. But yeah,
I did not have that, so I ended up having to rent it for $3. But man, it was worth way more than $3. If I'd paid $6 and watched this, I would have been perfectly happy. So yeah, definitely.
This is one that will be in the monolith at some point as soon as I get around to ordering it. So it's definitely one that I would watch. I have it's also it's on AMC Plus if anyone has that. It's on AMC Plus as well. Well, it's always good to use that Just Watch app too. That's a great source if anyone has that. You just program in every streaming service there is, and it literally you search a movie and it'll tell you which one it's on, and if it's for a fee, it'll even tell you how much it is. And it breaks it down by if it's in HD, if it's for rental, if it's for purchase, and so it's actually I've discovered certain streaming things because of that app. Actually, I'm like I never even heard of this one, and I turned out it was a free app, and
Yeah. I use Just Watch pretty much every episode we do, honestly, because when we pick a movie, I'm checking that first, to see.
It's on my phone, it's on my iPad, so it's on everything I would possibly watch something on. So.
And you can go to, if you want to use it on PC, you can go to justwatch.com and find the same information. So yeah, I'm not going to worry about the trivia for this one, Brian, because
it's only 2 pieces.
I only had 2 pieces of trivia, so we'll go on to our beer pairing for the wind.
It's funny too. The wind. You ever see Wanderlust? There's that scene where Justin Theroux he goes, "I wrote a song called The Wind." But yeah. So anyway, the beer I found is actually called The Wind. So you can't beat that for a name match. But and it actually happens to be from one of my favorite breweries out in Vermont. It's Lost Nation, Morrisville, Vermont. They make this saison that is absolutely incredible. It was actually one of the first saisons I actually noticed.
Wow,
their Lost Nation. Yeah, I have to give you the exact. I forgot the name for it, but the name of it. But it's really good. Anyway, it's a light beer in terms of ABV. It's only 4.8, and it's so here's a little description. It says, introducing our latest bottled beer, The Wind. The Wind is our classic ghost, dry hopped with citra hops and grapefruit. So that sounds great right there. The fact that it's a citra hopped ghost. So some of you may have had this beer in the past as a cask beer. Well, now we liked it so much we figured out how to bottle it. So it's something that obviously basically it was a kind of like a brewery exclusive. I guess you could only get it when you went to the brewery, but now you can get it in bottles. But look up Lost Nation. They distribute pretty decent. It's a lot of pretty good beers they have, and you can usually find it at any kind of really good bottle shop. They probably have it, so it's they have a decent variety, and it's definitely one if you're ever in the area to go visit too.
Cool. Well, I just discovered actually recently. I haven't been in yet, but we have a new. Speaking of non-IPA beers, we have a new bar that has opened up. It's basically a beer garden and tap room, and it's called the Sour Barn. And they focus on, it's an extension of our local Broomtail Brewing, and they focus on sours and barrel-aged beers.
Oh,
so I definitely want to check that place out. It looks really,
love a
really
good
cool.
barrel-aged.
Yeah, so they look really, really cool. Well, that brings us to our triple threat. So last week we were looking for an actor or actress who is also a director. And we were looking for Mr. Kevin Smith. So
yes.
Clue number 1, while most of my directing projects are not horror, I have dabbled in the genre. So, of course, Kevin directed the horror film Tusk, along with the segment Halloween and the horror anthology Holidays.
You saw Tusk, right?
I have not seen Tusk. I've heard of it.
Oh, you got to watch it. It's so good. So good. And it starts that little Canadian trilogy he does.
Yeah.
That connects with yoga hosers and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, clue number 2. Along with directing, I quietly have portrayed a lovable character in several of my films. Of course, we're talking about Silent Bob and all of the View Askew films of the Jay and Bob universe.
Do you like that, the way I worded that, huh? I quietly have portrayed.
I do like that. Clue number 3, I appeared as a cameo in an extremely popular horror franchise and featured a scene featuring said franchise in one of my own films. So Kevin playing Silent Bob had a brief cameo in Scream 3, And in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, he featured a scene with Wes Craven directing a then fictitious version of Scream 4 starring Shannon Doherty. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. I always thought that was so cool how they must have filmed it around exactly the same time at Miramax, because the Jay and Silent Bob cameo in Scream 3 was so unexpected. And apparently, like, also, if you follow the trivia, there was a couple of other references between the two universes there where they I think one something about in Jersey Girl, there's a reference to Scream in it, and I think there's another Jay and Silent Bob reference in one of the Screams or something. It's interesting.
I ran across a website, and I'm sorry I don't remember the name right now, but there is a website out there that catalogs every kill in Scream and who was behind the Ghostface mask in it for every
cool.
kill. It was really fascinating reading because, I mean, they broke it down and then they had like reasons why it had to have been this person, because this person was over here at this time and there was no way they could have gotten back and done this, or the director confirmed this, or the writer confirmed this in an interview, and it was really, really fascinating.
Nice. I mean, that person has a lot of time in their hands, but I am extremely grateful because that sounds like something fun to read. Though.
Yeah, it was definitely fun to read. Okay, so this week we're looking for another actor or actress, and here are your clues. Listen carefully. Clue number 1, the first theatrical feature I was in starred a professional wrestler. Clue number 2, I once starred in a remake of a popular 70s Disney live-action film. And clue number 3, while I wouldn't say I'm exactly known for horror, surely that could change with some of my latest roles. I like that one. I
thought you would.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to our fan topic food question of the week. This one, again, I'm assuming comes from, is this from David McHugh as well?
Yes, of course.
All right, of course. He's our man on the ground. Just supplying a never-ending stream of questions. And this is a good one. This one I had to really think about. He asked some favorite horror movie deformities.
Yeah, this one, so this is a weird question. I didn't know how to, like, go in this angle, so I think I'm just going to go through the ones that, like, kind of, like, disturb me. And I guess in favorite, because, I mean, to have a favorite deformity is kind of a weird thing to say. So I'm just going to ones that, like, I think, like, really stuck in and disturbed me.
Okay.
2 that come to mind right off the bat. Well, actually 3, I should say. 1, of course, that the sister Zelda in Pet Sematary. She had that weird,
yeah, that's a good one.
Whatever thing she had, the way she was all twisted up, that thing was a deformity to me.
That's the only scene that's bothering me about showing the kids Pet Cemetery, honestly. That's the one thing
that
holding
will
me back.
Traumatize anybody. That traumatizes me still to this day.
Yeah.
But another one that reminds is the one the dog. It's just heartbreak that in The Fly 2. Remember, it was like the half dog, half like fly creature, and they had to shoot it.
Yeah.
Because it was like that thing that really, really disturbed me because I felt so bad. It would look so like suffering, and I thought it was a rub. And then one of the most recent ones actually was in The Color Out of Space.
Oh, I was about to say,
the mom
yes.
and son got mixed together.
Oh,
it
God,
was like heartbreaking and disturbing.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah, and I just couldn't. Oh, yeah, no. It's like those are the 3 right now that come to mind. I know there's some others, and I'm missing. You know, I mean, yeah, sure. There's the easy ones like Jason or something like that, but I wanted to go something like real deformity and like.
Yeah, I had 2 that instantly came to mind, and funnily enough, mine was also from The Fly, but that was just Jeff Goldblum's transformation into The Fly.
Yeah, true.
Like that was a big one, yeah. And then the other one, probably my top in terms of like a deformed killer would be the freak from the Funhouse.
I was just thinking that actually as I was saying all of it. I had that. I'm like, if Tim doesn't mention that, I'm going to bring that one up.
Yeah, that was one of my absolute favorites. I love the design of that character. There was a point they used to make a resin kit. I used to do resin and vinyl model kits. They're not really popular anymore. You can't really buy them. Unfortunately, I think the black market, the counterfeiters, kind of just drove the whole industry out of business because they started getting knocked off, and they would do these recasts and then sell them on eBay, and the whole industry tanked. But there used to be like a lot of companies out there producing movie figure kits of different horror characters. I had like 16-inch vinyl kits of Leatherface, Pinhead, Jason, and you had to put them together and paint them and everything. They were an absolute blast to do, and unfortunately they kind of got ruined in a move. When I got married, I had them stored in the attic, and they kind of basically warped and melted, and I had to throw everything out, which is unfortunate. But what I was getting to was they used to sell a resin kit of the Freak from the Funhouse, and it was insanely expensive, especially at the time I was doing.
And that's an obscure title for a lot of people, you know? It's like, I mean, horror fans love it, but like, you know, like the average everyday like horror fan may not even recognize that movie.
But these resin kits, I mean, this is back in the 90s and maybe early 2000s when I was doing these, and even then, the resin kits, the vinyl were pretty cheap. That you could get vinyl for $50-$60, but the resin kits were typically at least $100, if not more. And that's back then. That's 20 years ago. So you can imagine, that was way out of my price range. And I think the Freak Funhouse one was probably at least $150 at the time. So I never got to get it, but man, that would have been an awesome kit to put together, because you don't see that's a piece of merchandise you never see, is stuff from the Funhouse. So.
Yeah, that would be great if NECA picked up on that and made the figure, that character.
Because it's such a weird alien look, and I know some people don't like that because he's not supposed to be an alien; he's supposed to be just a deformed kid. But I always thought the look of that was so freaky. It was one that really impacted me as a kid when I first rented that movie on VHS back in the day. That was one of the more memorable horror titles that that kind of stuck in my mind throughout the years, was that makeup. So that is definitely probably one of my if not the favorite deformity would be the Freak from the Funhouse.
Yeah, and that would be a cool idea for NECA. Not only just take that figure though, but make a series of like lesser known, like a wave of lesser known figures, because they do mostly the ones that people have heard of. Although I think the ones from American Werewolf in London, that like, because that was from that dream sequence, that zombie thing, that's actually a step in the right direction. So it's not that far off to think that there might not be like the Freak from the Funhouse to come in there. Oh, and speaking of Freak, of course we got to mention both Castle Freaks, I guess, at some level.
Oh yeah,
great deformities there. But it's like I was trying to stay away from just like a single creature if I could, try and get some kind of like really like kind of things that disturb me. But that's a great question, because it's kind of actually he does say the favorite, so I mean it's not like it's like the best or but yeah, it's hard to I think the best way to do it is to go through something that like stuck with me. That's kind of approach I took. So
yeah, good question. All right, so we will be back here next week. We're going to do our May Dismemberment. Will be out on the 4th, which is a Tuesday, which will also be, Brian,
Star Wars Day,
and my 19th wedding anniversary.
Yay!
So I got married on Star Wars Day. That was totally on purpose, so I would never forget, and it has worked like a champ.
Nicely done, Tim.
Yeah. So,
and we actually we're approaching. I think we'll start really promoting it though. Once we hit hit 190, but we're slowly approaching our 200th episode, which we're having some preliminary plans here to make this a really cool.
Oh yeah.
Spectacular.
Yeah, that'll be cool. All right, guys. So hit us up on social media if you have a particular movie you'd like us to cover. We'd be happy to do it. Always looking for suggestions. Don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll come up with something cool.
Yes.
So
remember, The Wind by Linda. No, that was what he said at night in Wanderlust.
Yeah, just stay out of the prairies.
Yeah, unless it's a little house.
Yeah, build it near Walnut Grove or Mankato. Mankato's the big town and Little House on the Prairie. That's where true. You always hear them going to Mankato.
Yeah, make sure you have the map to Olson's store.
Yeah. Later, guys.
Yeah.